The United States has spent the last two administrations trying to blunt what seems to be aggressive Chinese technology development, especially when it comes to semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and all the other nuts and bolts of the next industrial revolution. Washington has used executive orders, legislation, ad hoc congressional committees, new regulation, and export controls in its efforts to curtail China's access to these technologies. From 2017 onwards, US Department of Commerce has added more than 600 Chinese firms, including major players like Huawei, ZTE, and SMIC on its entity list, which restricts these companies' access to US technology. The Chinese Military Industrial Complex list and the Specially Designated Nationals list are also used to target Chinese companies. The CMIC list includes over 48 companies with ties to China's military, while many others have been cross-listed across various sanction programs. But if recent Chinese advances are any guide, these efforts have so far fallen short. China's tech landscape today is nothing short of remarkable. Once seen as a nation of imitators, China has rapidly transformed into a global leader in innovation across multiple sectors. Despite US sanctions cutting off access to critical chips, Chinese companies like SMIC have made breakthroughs. SMIC is now producing 7nm chips domestically, technology that rivals some of the best in the world. In fact, China's share of global semiconductor manufacturing has risen to nearly 16%, a significant jump from just a few years ago. In artificial intelligence, China is not just competing, but dominating. Chinese companies hold more AI patents than any other country, with companies like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent pushing the envelope in everything from facial recognition to autonomous driving. China's electric vehicle market is setting global standards. In 2023 alone, China produced more than 6 million EVs, making up more than half of all EV sales worldwide. Homegrown brands like BYD and NIO have become global contenders, with BYD surpassing Tesla in EV sales in the first half of 2023. And it's not just the cars. China's dominance in EV batteries is unmatched. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, supplies not just Chinese brands, but also giants like Tesla and BMW. And when it comes to 5G, China is leading the charge. By 2023, China had rolled out more than 2.3 million 5G base stations, covering 70% of the population, and it's projected that this technology will boost China's GDP by over $1 trillion by 2025. Companies like Huawei, despite US sanctions, continue to build the most advanced 5G infrastructure, both at home and abroad. But how did China achieve all of this despite being cut off from crucial US technologies? How has China carved out its success, with sanctions only pushing it to innovate faster? Let's begin by looking at a strategy that's not unique to China. When sanctions were first imposed on Russia in 2014, following the annexation of Crimea, President Putin asked his advisors a crucial question: was Russia self-sufficient in food? The answer was a resounding no. Recognizing the vulnerability, Putin immediately ordered a shift towards self-sufficiency. Fast forward to 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, food security was no longer an issue. In just 8 years, Russia had developed a robust domestic production system, becoming almost entirely self-sufficient in key staples like meat, fish, and even cheese. The lesson? When faced with sanctions, a country can be forced to innovate and build its own domestic capacities. China has followed a similar path, but on a much larger and more ambitious scale. Faced with heavy US sanctions, China recognized the importance of decoupling from foreign dependencies, particularly in technology. And this realization formed the strongest pillar of the China strategy to move forward despite sanctions. China's reliance on imported semiconductors, nearly 60% of its demand, was a strategic vulnerability. But when Washington imposed export bans on companies like Huawei and ZTE, the Chinese government and its tech giants went into overdrive. The result? Massive investment in domestic chip production. Over the last few years, China has poured more than $100 billion into its semiconductor industry, aiming to become self-reliant in chip technology, and has launched initiatives like the Made in China 2025. The flagship of this effort is SMIC, China's largest chip maker. After years of trailing behind global leaders like Intel and TSMC, SMIC has made a breakthrough: the development of 7nm chips, the most advanced it has ever produced. While these chips aren't yet on par with the cutting-edge 3nm technology from Taiwan's TSMC, it marks a giant leap forward for China's domestic capabilities. The US wanted to keep China at 14 nanometer mark, however. SMIC's innovation is a testament to China's relentless focus on overcoming its semiconductor deficit. Take another example, Huawei. When the US cut off Huawei's access to Google services and key semiconductor chips, many thought it was a death blow for the telecom giant. But Huawei pivoted quickly, developing its own Harmony OS and investing heavily in creating Kirin chips. Despite not having access to American technology, Huawei remained a dominant force in global telecommunications and 5G deployment, proving that the company could innovate its way out of dependency. Artificial intelligence is also a critical focus in China's quest for self-sufficiency. In 2017, China unveiled its new generation AI development plan, with aims to make China the global leader in AI by 2030. With government support, tech companies have the freedom and the funding to experiment, innovate, and commercialize AI at scale. By 2023, China had attracted over $90 billion in AI investments, accounting for nearly 25% of global AI funding. This public-private partnership is key to China's AI success story, where China leads every chart about AI development. The second pillar of China's strategy to counter US sanction pressures is the development of a highly skilled indigenous talent pool. It has expanded domestic education system with a sharp focus on STEM fields. Today, China produces more STEM graduates annually than any other country in the world. In 2023, their number was 4.7 million graduates. In comparison, the US produced only 568,000 STEM graduates, giving China an advantage in building a tech-savvy workforce. Top-tier universities like Tsinghua and Peking University are now leading the charge in cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and semiconductor technologies. Resultantly, China has overtaken the US in publishing research papers in AI, quantum computing, and related fields. In 2022, China accounted for 27.5% of the world's top 1% most cited AI papers, compared to 16.4% by the US. Furthermore, in terms of patents, China holds 65% of the world's AI patents. But this is only one side of the coin. China has also been highly strategic in attracting top global talent during this period. The government's 1,000 Talents Plan, designed to attract Chinese nationals working abroad as well as foreign experts, brought in more than 40,000 foreign scientists and engineers, strengthening China's innovation ecosystem. And the sanctions acted as a catalyst, encouraging Chinese nationals working abroad to return to China. More than 85% of Chinese students who study abroad return to China within 5 years, as of 2023, up from 73% in 2013. This influx of returning talent has strengthened China's domestic research capacity. Chinese tech giants such as Huawei, Alibaba, and Tencent also came forward and established in-house training programs to develop indigenous talent. Huawei's 2018 Seeds for the Future program, for example, provided training to over 30,000 Chinese engineers across cutting-edge 5G and AI technologies. Thirdly, perhaps one of the most critical yet overlooked aspects of China's success is its control over rare earth minerals. These are essential components in the manufacturing of everything from smartphones to fighter jets. As of 2023, China controlled 70% of global rare earth production and over 80% of the global processing capacity. Despite efforts by countries like the US, Australia, and Japan to diversify rare earth supply chains, China remains the dominant player. This Chinese dominance in the rare earth sector served as a diplomatic shield against harsher sanctions or trade measures. The US and other countries are aware of how reliant their own tech industries are on China for these minerals. This reliance makes it difficult for the West to decouple from Chinese supply chains without experiencing disruptions to their own industries. For example, the US defense industry depends heavily on rare earth elements supplied from China, and cutting off access could jeopardize national security projects. This has limited the scope and effect of sanctions the US can impose on China without facing reciprocal harm. Further, taking advantage of this dominance, China fostered strategic partnerships with other countries, providing access to technology transfers and global markets. Nations like Germany and South Korea, recognizing their dependence on rare earths, maintained close ties with Chinese firms, particularly in sectors like battery production and electric vehicles. And partnerships with European firms also help China to access alternative technologies, bypassing US-led restrictions. This ability to control rare earth prices and supply allowed China to offer cost-competitive technologies to global markets, even under sanctions. This control gives it a cost advantage not just in production, but also in scaling up technologies like 5G and solar panels, where rare earth minerals are crucial in production. This cost leadership makes it difficult for Western competitors to match China's output, even as sanctions attempt to slow the country's technological ascent. Lastly, China has long recognized that the key to thriving in a world with external pressures is to cultivate its domestic market. With 1.4 billion people and a rapidly growing middle class, the country has become less reliant on external markets. Official guidelines reflect the adaptation of the dual circulation model as a new development pattern where domestic and foreign markets can boost each other, with the domestic market as the mainstay. This suggests that the Chinese leadership is now more decisively intent on giving a major role to domestic circulation as a future growth driver. In 2023, China's retail sales grew by approximately 8% year-on-year, reflecting strong domestic consumer spending. And domestic consumption contributed about 60% to China's GDP in 2023, compared to 50% a decade ago. This increase indicates a successful shift towards a consumption-driven economy, which helped stabilize economic performance and continued technological progress despite this external shock in the form of sanctions. So, while Washington has aimed to curtail China's technological progress, Beijing's strategy has proven resilient. Through massive R&D investments, building a robust domestic talent pool, forming strategic international alliances, expanding its internal market, and maintaining a stranglehold on rare earth mineral supply chains, China continues to defy the odds. As China marches forward, the question remains, can the rest of the world keep up?